a training course entitled Methods of Fraud Within the Financial Statements and How to Infer Them, for the period from 18-2019 to 8/22/7/9/2019. To all governmental and private banks, fraud methods, how to infer them. Click here to view. A training course entitled Audit Strategy in Accordance with International Standards for the period from 21-2019 to 7/25/7/9/2019. To all government private banks, Audit Strategy in Accordance with International Standards. Click here to view. July 9, 2019. All ministries, minister's office and non-affiliated bodies in all governorates office of the head of all governorates, governor's office, localization of salaries. Click here to view. The Oil and Energy Committee discusses the answers of the Ministers of Oil and Electricity and the answers to the companies Caucas and Petrofac. July 9, 2019. The Oil and Energy Committee held a meeting on Monday, August 7, 2109 under the chairmanship of MP Hebad al-Halbusi and in the presence of the members of the committee to discuss a number of important issues. The committee discussed the answers of the Minister of Oil during his hosting in the Council on May 22, 2019, and the Ministry of Oil's response to the Korean company Caucas, the official operator of the gas Crutch field, which was received by the committee on June 17, 2019, and the Inspector General of the Ministry and the Security Clearance Office regarding Petrofac. In addition to the discussion of the answers of the Minister of Electricity for his hosting in the House of Representatives on May 20, 2019. During the meeting, they discussed the results of the visit by the committee to Basra and inspected the oil and gas companies and power stations in the province. The Ministry of Oil was asked to provide the committee with detailed answers in a written and official manner in order to review the comments made by the members of the committee regarding the performance of the ministry's departments and oil companies and the position of the ministry officials on these issues and the remarks made during the meeting. In a related context, the committee discussed the books received from the Committee on Foreign Relations regarding the nomination of members of the Committee of the International Friendship Committees. Statement of the Services and Reconstruction Committee, July 9, 2019. Based on the regulatory responsibility, the Services and Construction Committee hosted the Minister of Communications to review the ministry's work plan and the current challenges in Iraq, especially the Ministry of Communications, and listened to a detailed explanation of the telecommunications services provided and the deterioration in them. The Services and Reconstruction Committee affirms the ministry's support in combating corruption, communications, which are connected to some companies benefiting from outside the ministry, and to achieve quality and improve the services and the process of controlling the gates of the internet and address the smuggling through these gates. It also supports the 4G project as an advanced technology, as well as follow up the important needs with regard to the budget of the Ministry of Communications and support infrastructure in various regions of Iraq, which was authorized through the ladies and gentlemen members of the committee during the hosting and review and perform all services at the level of Iraq and support professional companies in providing quality service to the people. The Strategic Planning Committee raises its recommendations on resolving the housing crisis to vote before the House of Representatives July 9, 2019. The committee to monitor the implementation of the government program and strategic planning headed by MP Muhammad Ali Zani and the presence of its members on Monday, August 7, 2019 session to discuss the recommendations prepared on resolving the housing crisis in Iraq. During the meeting held at its headquarters, the committee discussed the recommendations of the Ministry of Finance, in coordination with the central bank, to establish a real estate finance program in which interest shall be determined at a rate not exceeding 2%. The loan period shall be a maximum of 25 years, for 75 million dinars and every citizen not less than 18 years old. The committee pointed out that the size of the allocations required for the housing and construction sector in the 2020 budget is 4.5 trillion dinars allocated for infrastructure projects and the real estate bank and the housing fund, and for the completion of housing projects sluggish. The Commission also committed the National Investment Authority and the concerned parties to announce all investment projects according to economic feasibility in order to create an atmosphere of competition among investors and reduce corruption and blackmail, as well as prepare an integrated plan for the conversion of industrial areas and unoccupied land belonging to the state and the capital and provincial centers to urban housing complexes and allocate the necessary amounts. The committee stressed in its recommendations the support and encouragement of the national industry for construction materials and facilitate the lending process, and to find a top sector executive to manage the housing problem and has the authority to transfer land owned by any state institutions for the purpose of building housing complexes for citizens and the government to adjust its government program to suit with these recommendations that are in the interest of the citizen. At the end of the meeting, the committee decided to raise the recommendations for a vote in the House of Representatives during this session because of its importance in finding a quick solution to the housing crisis in Iraq. From the headquarters of the Bar Association, Al-Kabi calls trade unions, universities, organizations and research centers to coordinate and consult with the House of Representatives in the preparation and maturation of laws. July 9, 2019. Mr. Hassan Karim Al-Kabi, First Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, called on all accredited unions, civil society organizations, universities, unions, research centers, and various media platforms and related parties to be the main and real partners with the Council of Representatives in consultation and coordination in holding workshops and seminars and practicing their effective role in preparing and producing drafts and proposals and draft laws. This came during his sponsorship on Monday, July 8, 2019, the second dialogue session to discuss the draft law on free access to information at the headquarters of the Iraqi Bar Association, organized by the Organization of the Tower of Babel in the presence of a number of ladies and gentlemen deputies and the Commission on Human Rights and the Media and Communications and the Ministry of Interior and personalities and related bodies. He stressed the importance of taking all proposals and visions and assimilation of the ideas put forward during the seminars and study them intensively and accurately, which contributes to reach the wording of the law of justice and the rule of law and provide a healthy environment to access information within the ruling texts and approval of the Constitution, explaining that such workshops may shorten the time and mature ideas and unite them, and there is a need to continue to reach a more coherent and accurate legislation and impact. Media Office of the First Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, July 8, 2019. The Secretary-General of the Council of Ministers stresses the importance of preserving the presidential palaces as part of the history of Iraq. July 9, 2019. The Secretary-General of the Council of Ministers, Mr. Hamid Al-Ghazi, stressed the importance of preserving presidential palaces, which represented an important part of the history of Iraq. This came at the head of the meeting of the Committee on the Preparation of an Integrated Database to determine the presidential deficiencies in the various provinces of the country, and determine the return and the occupants. The Secretary-General said that the government's responsibility was to preserve it for future generations, saying that the current priority is focused on 3 main sites in Baghdad, in order to remove the psychological barriers left by the former regime to the citizens. The committee reviewed its efforts during the last phase and field visits to the palaces and subsidiary facilities in a number of governorates, as well as the reports and surveys that referred to the legal status of the built-up areas. The participants concluded with a number of proposals, most notably the consideration of the reality, the identification of optimal use, the possibility of transforming it into recreational spaces without altering or compromising the basic building features, as well as providing a clear vision of what the conversion will achieve on the economic, tourism and moral levels. The follow-up team to implement the government program reviews the work stages of the Narawan Central Water Project, July 9, 2019. The team monitoring the implementation of the projects included in the government program, which is the problem in the Secretariat General of the Council of Ministers, reviewed the work stages of the Narawan Central Water Project, which will operate at a production capacity of 4,000 cubic meters each. The team met with the resident engineer department, representatives of the Ministry of Construction, Housing, Municipalities and Public Works and the company representative, and stressed the need to adhere to the deadlines for completion of the project and its entry into the actual work stage, to serve the residents of the area and surrounding villages. The project managers explained the progress of the project and the most important problems and obstacles facing the implementation stages of the project between project management, executing company and government institutions. The project, which will serve the Narawan, April 9 and Kargil areas, consists of main drag and pull stations, conveyor lines and filter stations at the main project site. The project was suspended in 2015 because of the suspension of funding by a decision of the Council of Ministers at the time, and resumed work during the year 2018, and is scheduled to shake during the month of May of 2020. The visiting team will prepare a report on the details of the project, include the final recommendations, and forward them to the relevant authorities to implement them. Minister of Justice receives a congratulatory delegation from the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, July 9, 2019. Minister of Justice Farouk Amin Al-Shwani received a delegation from the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, PUK, Baghdad office headed by Mr. Paul Shahid. On the occasion of his appointment as Minister of Justice, the minister expressed his gratitude to the visiting delegation and discussed with him the overall situation in the country, stressing that the cooperation of the political blocs contributed to the consolidation of the democratic experience and the strengthening of security, which would contribute to the strengthening of the construction and reconstruction of Iraq. During his meeting with the British ambassador in Iraq, July 9, 2019, Justice Minister Farouk Amin Al-Shwani announced on Monday the ministry's intention to implement a comprehensive program of human rights in the departments of the ministry and provided by the Iraqi Reform Department. The minister said that during his official meeting with British Ambassador to Iraq John Wilkes, The new human rights program would achieve international standards. In this regard, he stressed that the Ministry of Justice is obliged to implement the agreements signed by Iraq before the international community. Pointing out the importance of enhancing cooperation in the legal and technical aspects of the ministry's staff through exchanging experiences between the two countries, the minister said that the ministry's prisons carry out a reform program for the guests to reintegrate them after the end of their sentences, and to ensure their rehabilitation and intellectual immunity against the extremist approach and the ideology of terrorism. For his part, British Ambassador to Iraq, John Wilkes, stressed the commitment of the British government to implement the joint agreements with the Iraqi government and the Ministry of Justice in various fields, praising the victories achieved by the security forces on gangs and urging the support of Iraq in the reconstruction of areas liberated from terrorism. During his meeting with the Director General of the Department of Execution and Advanced Staff in the department July 9, 2019, Minister of Justice Farouk Amin al-Shawani announced the establishment of a phased plan to develop the reality of the work in the judicial departments, including the study of the needs of each department for the current period of its provision. Coinciding with the implementation of the strategic plan of the ministry in the field of the infrastructure of the judicial services and the implementation of the electronic supervision program, this came during the meeting which was held by the Director General of the Implementation Department, Rod Khalil Gaji, and the advanced cadre in the department to review the work of the department and determine the priority of work in the department and the development of the level of services provided to citizens. He pointed out the importance of simplifying routine procedures to facilitate the work of the judicial departments and simplifying the requirements of completing transactions. The minister outlined the general orientation of the work responsibilities assigned to the judicial system and the speedy implementation of judicial decisions in the interest of the citizen and the enforcement of the rule of law. He called for the importance of putting staff in all the judicial departments in specialized training courses to raise their scientific competence and develop their professional abilities. Cabinet agrees measures to improve public services in Basra and other provinces. The Cabinet held its weekly regular meeting in Baghdad on Tuesday under the chairmanship of Prime Minister al-Abadi. The Cabinet discussed public services in Iraq, with a focus on Basra and other southern provinces. The Cabinet agreed to expedite the release of the Basra's share of oil and customs revenues as well as its share of income generated by Iraq's border crossings to support current plans to improve public services and to invest in future projects. The Cabinet discussed the fresh water shortage in Basra and agreed to increase the flow of water from the Tigris and its tributaries to Basra. The Cabinet also ordered that the Great Water Project in Hertha area, on the banks of Shatt al-Arab, to begin operating on a trial basis in August 2018. The Cabinet reviewed electricity supplied to the residents of Basra and agreed several measures to alleviate shortages affecting parts of the province. The Cabinet discussed measures to boost the economy and encourage investment to create jobs for Iraqis. The Cabinet approved plans to create 10,000 jobs in Basra as part of the government's strategy to invest in the jobs of the future. The Cabinet discussed reforms to the pensions payment system and approved plans to expedite the move to the electronic payment of state pensions across Iraq. The Cabinet received briefing on national security and ongoing operations to hunt down Daesh remnants.